And the teen who recorded that video of Derek Chauvin kneeling on Floyd's neck also breaking down on the stand, what she says still keeps her up at night. New satellite images over a North Korean nuclear plant. The alarming thing they show and the growing pressure on President Biden. The U.S. bracing for a potential fourth COVID wave. The troubling signs, 19 states reporting a rise in hospitalizations. The new plea from the CDC directors and the nation's governors. The first video from inside the Border Patrol facility, overcrowded with thousands of migrant children. The youngest separated into playpens where they also sleep. The disturbing surveillance, a 65-year-old Asian woman brutally attacked in broad daylight in New York City. No one helping her. The hunt for the suspect. The new Secret Service report finding that school shootings are preventable, the warning signs to look for. And the countdown to an opening day like no other.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. Captured on video in its entirety and seen around the world, so many of us essentially became witnesses to the death of George Floyd, but spared the trauma of actually seeing it face to face. Unlike the eyewitnesses who testified today in the murder trial of Derek Chauvin, he's the now former policeman charged with murdering Floyd. Today, the jury heard from bystanders describing what it was like to watch from just feet away as Floyd became unresponsive while under the knee of Officer Chauvin. Today, on day 2 of the trial, we heard from the underage girl who recorded the moment. That video that horrified so many of us and forced a painful reckoning. Gabe Gutierrez is in Minneapolis tonight with late developments from the trial.
On the witness stand today, Donald Williams fought back tears as he heard the 911 call he placed while George Floyd was dying.
He just pretty much just killed this guy that wasn't resisting arrest. He had his knee on the dude's neck the whole time.
Williams, a bystander at the scene last May, said he studied mixed martial arts and told Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer, was placing Floyd in a kill or blood choke.
Did call the police on the police.
Right. And why did you do that?
Because I believe I witnessed a murder.
During cross-examination today, a tense exchange with Chauvin's attorney.
When you do a blood choke, what you're trained on generally is to limit the blood supply to both sides of the neck.
No, a blood choke is attack one side of the neck.
Chauvin's defense team is arguing Floyd died from underlying health conditions and drugs in his system. The next several witnesses testified off camera since they were minors at the time.
I heard George Floyd saying, "I can't breathe, please get off of me."
Darnella Frazier, now 18, shot the cell phone video that ricocheted across the world because she said what was happening to Floyd wasn't right.
It seemed like he knew it was over for him.
If not for that video, George Floyd likely wouldn't be a household name.
When I look at George Floyd, I look at my dad, I look at my brothers, I look at my cousins, my uncles, because they are all black. I look at how that could have been one of them. It's been nights I stayed up apologizing to George Floyd for not doing more.
Late today, a Minneapolis firefighter testified she was stopped from giving medical assistance to Floyd when she first arrived at the scene.
When you couldn't do that, how did that make you feel?
Totally distressed.
Were you frustrated?
Yes.
The defense has suggested that this was a heavy crowd of bystanders, but the prosecution argues it was a small group of people going about their daily lives, thrust into a traumatic situation.
Understandable amount of emotion there, Gabe. Thank you. Just breaking tonight, new satellite pictures raising alarms about North Korea's nuclear program after a series of recent threats and provocations. Andrea Mitchell now with late details.
Kim Jong-un taking another step towards building more nuclear bombs, according to experts studying a satellite picture just taken today. The picture showing smoke rising from North Korea's main nuclear processing plant. Experts say it appears that North Korea is about to make more bombs or already has.
How concerning is it?
I think it's certainly concerning when you add this on top of the speech that Kim Jong-un gave in January, where he talked about significantly augmenting their weapons capabilities, both nuclear weapons, ICBMs, and submarine-launched ballistic missiles.
Last week, North Korea tested 2 short-range ballistic missiles. President Biden said the U.S. would respond accordingly if they escalated. The UN Security Council met on that today. The president said he's prepared for some kind of diplomacy. But right now, Kim Jong-un seems more intent on seeing how far he can advance his nuclear program. Lester?
Okay, Andrea, thank you. Growing concern about a 4th wave of COVID infections. While 96 million have now received at least 1 vaccine dose, hospitalizations are up to about 33,000 amid pleas for new restrictions. Here's Miguel Almaguer with that.
In one of the most serious signs the nation could face a 4th surge, tonight 19 states, from New York to Washington, are now reporting a rise in hospitalizations. Many of the sick are young and fueling the numbers. Infection rates growing for those under 50, including teenagers, some who now qualify for a vaccine.
It just really puts me at ease. I'm not constantly worried about getting COVID. It's helping out the whole entire nation and the whole entire world.
With most of the nation, some 30 states, still recording a rise in new cases, Michigan's hospitalization rate is rising faster than it did in the fall. In New Jersey, the governor just lifted more restrictions. But over the weekend, hospitals admitted more COVID patients than they released. New York, home again to one of the highest new case rates per capita.
We've got patients waiting in our ER for beds for a long time, and so we are not out of the woods yet.
In Florida, where the governor says he'll issue an executive order forbidding vaccine passports, the state has become a bellwether. After spring break scenes like these and rolling back nearly every restriction, cases are rising. Today, the CDC director calling governors, asking them to reinstate safety mandates.
Lifting all these restrictions, telling people not to wear masks, gathering in large crowds, that's the equivalent of playing with fire.
With roughly 90% of Americans eligible for vaccinations in the next 3 weeks, a new poll finds vaccine hesitancy is declining, especially in the South and among African Americans.
Tonight, those at highest risk set to soon get the protection they need. Lester?
All right, Miguel, thanks. Increasing criticism of that joint WHO report with China on the origins of the coronavirus. The U.S. among the countries raising concern about a lack of full access to data from China. Here's Keir Simmons.
Tonight, the World Health Organization already questioning a joint coronavirus report by its own team and China, and its conclusion that it was extremely unlikely COVID escaped from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The WHO Director General saying that assessment was not extensive enough, saying he may deploy a new mission to further investigate China's labs. The WHO facing mounting criticism of the report, which had to be approved by China.
China must be quite pleased with the result of this written report, stating that the lab origin hypothesis is extremely unlikely.
The State Department, in a joint statement with 13 other countries, expressing concerns over China blocking access to complete original data.
In spite of this terrible pandemic that's killed so many millions and disrupted billions, the Chinese government from the very beginning has been destroying samples, hiding records, imprisoning journalists.
The team of scientists today defending the study and its conclusion about the Wuhan lab.
Not saying that it was impossible, but not the one we would start initially going deeper into.
The report has very few clear-cut conclusions, so why would you not maintain an open mind about what is worth investigating?
There are conclusions throughout the documents. Nobody would expect that this mission would have come up with the final answer.
Chinese markets that sold animals and animal meat emerge in the report as one possible source of the pandemic. The report offers many theories, including the transmission of the virus from bats to humans. But its authors warn today it could be many years before we know where coronavirus came from. Lester?
Keir Simmons tonight, thank you. In just 60 seconds, disturbing new images inside a crowded migrant detention facility for children. Tonight, we're going to give you a first look at the cramped conditions inside the main detention facility in Texas, where thousands of unaccompanied migrant children are being held. Antonia Hilton is there.
Tonight, after facing backlash for keeping journalists out,
The Biden administration allowing a news crew inside this overcrowded Border Patrol detention facility in Donna, Texas. Over 3,000 unaccompanied migrant children packed together in the middle of a pandemic, lying on the floor with a thin foil blanket. No COVID tests are given unless a child shows symptoms. They're allowed a brief phone call every 48 hours. The youngest kept separated in these playpens for their safety. They even sleep here.
These kids cross by themselves.
Border Patrol's acting executive officer, Oscar Escamilla, says most came with smugglers, parents often counting on authorities to reunite them with family members in the U.S.
Only God knows what happens to them while they're coming in on that journey. Nothing is guaranteeing the safety and the security of that child until they come into our custody.
There are 5,100 unaccompanied children detained in facilities like this, which in this part of Texas are already at 800% capacity. The surge happening after President Biden reversed former President Trump's policy and began allowing unaccompanied children into the U.S. Escamilla saying he expects the number of migrants to grow.
They know that we're releasing them. They know that right now there's nothing stopping them. We're not going to deport them back to their countries.
Children are meant to be processed and sent to shelters within 72 hours. 39 children here have been here for at least 15 days, and that's because shelters have no space. Lester?
Antonia Hilton, thank you. A brutal attack in New York is putting new focus on a wave of violence against Asian Americans. The White House announcing new measures to stop it. Jolene Kent now has more and a warning the video is disturbing.
Tonight, disturbing new footage showing a 65-year-old Asian woman viciously attacked in broad daylight.
It could be any of us any day tomorrow, you know.
A man repeatedly kicking her in the stomach on a New York City street, stomping on her head while making anti-Asian statements, according to police. 3 people are in the lobby of an apartment building just steps away. At least one of them watches the brutal assault. And once the attacker, who is still at large, leaves, no one helps the woman. Instead, the door is closed as she struggles on the sidewalk.
We can't just stand back and watch a heinous act happening.
Nationwide, hate crimes against Asians were up nearly 150% last year.
How concerned are you that people are doing this in an effort to copy what other perpetrators have done?
I'm extremely concerned about the copycat effect. Additionally, I think people are reporting things more than they were previously as they're more aware of what's happening.
Now, the Biden administration is allocating nearly $50 million for Asian American Pacific Islander survivors of violence and assault, and establishing a new committee dedicated to ending xenophobia against the AAPI community. The FBI will also publicly highlight reports of anti-Asian hate crimes.
We are at a moment of reckoning, and we get to choose what kind of country we want to be.
The Justice Department also announcing today it's expediting the improvement of hate crime tracking and prosecutions.
The most painful part of that video was watching that man close the door on that woman. And I hope that as a country, we don't do the same thing.
Joe, it's also horrifying. Any word on that woman's condition?
Lester, officials say she's just been released from the hospital. And as for the people in that lobby, building management says they've been suspending pending an investigation. The New York City Hate Crimes Task Force is also investigating. Lester?
All right, Joe, thanks. A report from the Secret Service provides new hope that student attacks on their own schools can be prevented. Pete Williams has more.
A plot to attack this high school in suburban Seattle was stopped 3 years ago when the grandmother of student Joshua O'Connor found he'd written something disturbing in his journal and called 911.
He's planning to have a mass shooting at one of the high schools.
A search of his bedroom turned up a rifle like this, the same model used 19 years earlier at Columbine High in Colorado.
She could very well have saved a number of lives, including her grandson's life.
Now a Secret Service study of 67 school attack plans that were discovered and stopped over a dozen years found that in nearly every case, the plotters, like Joshua O'Connor, gave off distinct warning signs.
They let other students know and those around them about their planning. They talked about wanting to carry out an attack. They selected dates and so on.
Among the warning signs, the report says fascination with past violent attacks, an interest in weapons, harassing behavior, suicidal thoughts, and being bullied. The report says schools must be alert to these threats.
That should involve teachers, counselors, administrators, principals, school resource officers. Everyone has a role to play in prevention.
The Secret Service says in many cases, students actually plot their attacks for months, giving ample time to stop them if schools know what to look for. Lester?
All right, Pete Williams, thank you. Up next, keeping everyone safe as baseball begins. Baseball is back in less than 48 hours under new COVID protocols. Here's Steve Patterson.
The unmistakable symphony of late spring. The sounds of baseball ushering in renewed hope.
It's great to be back. It's therapeutic. I think we've all needed it.
The COVID pandemic reshaped America's pastime in 2020, a shortened season with cardboard cutouts instead of fans in the stands. But this year, baseball's back with a new normal. Major League Baseball issuing a 108-page health and safety manual with protocols each team must follow to play ball.
The manual is written in pencil, and we have to be adaptable. And one of the things we learned last year is that if you can't be flexible, you can't play in this environment.
Players are now required to wear contact tracing wristbands and face coverings in team facilities and in the dugout. Players are also restricted on where they can and can't go.
Guys are sticking to that and just trying to stay on our best behavior.
Vaccinations aren't mandated, but the league says if 85% of a team gets the shot, they may loosen restrictions.
This year, fans are returning to the stands to watch the games, but it's in a limited fashion. Here at Chase Field, home of the Arizona Diamondbacks, they hope to fill up the stands at some point during the season. Meanwhile, occupancy, it's a state-by-state decision.
We're at a very critical time. Major League Baseball has worked extremely hard to get us back on the field. We want to take our responsibility seriously and make sure that we protect where we're at right now.
A long season ahead with so much at stake on and off the field. Steve Patterson, NBC News, Scottsdale, Arizona.
In this holy season, the platforms of NBC News are focusing this week on faith. Tonight, Matt Bradley takes us inside Jerusalem, where Christians, Jews, and Muslims are all observing religious holidays amid the pandemic.
This week in Jerusalem, 3 of the world's major religions are gathering for Holy Week. As a successful vaccine campaign slowly resurrects life from before the pandemic. More than 50% of Israeli citizens are now fully vaccinated, according to the Ministry of Health. Saliba Paniotos has lived in the Old City his whole life.
The people who lived in Jerusalem, they are holy people, don't worry. Together, Jews, Muslims, Christians, together, hand by hand. And we give Jerusalem a sample to the world that we live. We suffer, but we live.
For Christians like Saliba, Easter comes this Sunday. For Muslims, the holy month of Ramadan begins in just 2 weeks. And for Jews, it's the middle of Passover week. But for people of all religions, the pain of the pandemic has also focused their faith. The Katz family, American Jews who moved to Jerusalem 2 years ago, started a socially distanced synagogue in their backyard. Alex Katz sees the pandemic as a parable.
I think that in Judaism, we tend to band together when the times are tough, and the times were very tough.
Last year, COVID killed 3 members of Mazen Jabri's family in just 1 week. This Ramadan, he hopes to reunite his extended family and remember those lost. Did it strengthen your faith?
Yes. I think for myself at least, and maybe other people I know, it strengthened my faith in God, yeah.
A modern plague reaffirming faith in this ancient city. Matt Bradley, NBC News, Jerusalem.
A short break, and then next, one surgeon's life-saving mission. Finally, inspiring America and the Philadelphia surgeon who became a vaccine champion for the city's hard-hit black community. Here's Raheem Ellis.
Dr. Ayla Stanford became a pediatric surgeon to save lives, but never imagined it would look like this.
Everybody's good.
She's opened a site that's defied expectations, distributing nearly 30,000 COVID vaccines in 31 days.
It feels really good to treat people the way they deserve to be treated.
The Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium, a group of black healthcare professionals, offer vaccines to those hardest hit. First come, first serve.
Everybody's good? Second shot? All we were trying to do was create access and barrier-free services for those who don't typically have it.
Her mission began a year ago, knocking on doors offering COVID tests. About 1 in 5 black women say they definitely will not get the vaccination.
Honestly, it was a struggle for me initially. I had to separate Black Ayla from Dr. Ayla.
But there's no vaccine hesitancy here, and she's a key reason why.
Occasionally, someone will stop and look me in the eyes and say, if it was not for you, so many more people would have lost their lives. One vision can save a life, change the world.
Rahima Ellis, NBC News, Philadelphia.
Real champion of the fight against COVID. That's Nightly News for this Tuesday. Thank you for watching. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.